Hello and welcome to the podcast series Care Well Conversations, raising awareness about the issues and challenges facing family carers who combine work and care by engaging with employers, HR professionals, employee representative organisations, family carers and the research community. My name is Brian Doyle. I'm the podcast series producer and a researcher with the Care Well Project, a collaboration between University College Dublin and Family Carers Ireland, funded by the Health Research Board. The overall aim of the Care Well Research Project is to promote health and self-care among working family carers. And over the course of this podcast series, we will have conversations with those who have a role to play in supporting working family carers and begin to tease out the challenges and issues facing them and their employers. So hello and welcome to this episode of Care Well Conversations. I'm delighted to say I'm joined by Fiona O'Neill from Jobs for Family Carers, who has agreed to come and talk to us today. So you're most welcome, Fiona.
Thank you for even having me on.
No, don't mention it. We're glad that you gave us time in your busy schedule to come and chat to us. So I know we're here to talk about your social enterprise, but maybe before we get on to that, maybe just tell me a little bit about yourself and your caring role.
Yeah. So, as you said, my caring role, I'm a family carer myself. I have two boys and one of my sons has a number of different medical conditions and diagnoses going on. And now he's 15 now, so he was diagnosed when he was 4. So we're a long time with medical procedures and talking to different consultants and even psychologists and different things. And I suppose that I started off my journey, I was working full-time with an insurance company. And as I often say is that there was more hospital appointments and consultation visits than there was days leave from work. So I actually had to make the decision to leave my full-time job to become his full-time carer because, like I said, there wasn't enough leave in the day or in the year to be able to accommodate all his hospital appointments as well. I wouldn't change it for the world because it's brought me on a whole journey because of it. But I live and breathe a family carer's world, so I suppose that's why I look through a family carer's eyes when I'm looking at anything.
Very good. And thanks for sharing that with us. So, as you say, you left your employment and then you came to set up the Jobs for Family Care. So, how did that come about, or how did you get the idea to set up this enterprise?
It's actually, again, I know so many people, the cliche of things happen for a reason. Sometimes when you're going through the dark clouds, you don't see the light at the other side of it. Because when I had to give up my job, it was the dark clouds for me. I was like, what am I going to do? What's around the corner? But it was through losing my own job and then trying to find something part-time. At the time, it was 15 hours for those who might remember family care, when you receive a carer's allowance. It was years, I think about 4 years ago, it was maximum you could work per week was 15 hours. So at that time, it was 15 hours for me. And it was through trying to find 15 hours that I realized there was no 15-hour jobs out there, that they were slim, they were so hard to find. And that's where the seed was planted about Jobs for Family Carers, because I knew that, God, if I'm finding it this hard to find 15 hours, there's thousands of family carers out there that are going to find it hard as well, not just in my own area, but nationally, that there was nothing out there. And a lot of companies then assumed that, you know, who would work 15 hours? Do you know, that they, even if it was 12 or 14 hours, it's in a company's, it's the stereotypical thought maybe of that, you know, you'd have to offer 24 if anyone wants to be attracted to it. Whereas a family care would take your arm off for 15 hours. So it was through my own journey, like I said, of having to walk away from my own job, having my own degree and my own qualifications and my own skills to give to another job, but not being able to find that job. But then Jobs for Family Carers, the idea came about and it just started to grow from there, you know.
And how did you start, or what was the initial steps that you took?
So, okay, it literally started as an idea. So I used to haunt everyone. So every family carer I knew, if I saw a 14-hour job in Cork, I'd send it on to Cork family carers to say, here's a 14-hour in Cork, so exciting. You get so excited about finding a job that would suit your carer's allowance requirement, you know. And I'd find one in Waterford and I'd send it on to maybe Family Carers Ireland in Waterford, or wherever I saw one, and I was sharing them to different Facebook groups. A lot of family carers would be familiar with, DCA warriors and things like that, that we'd share them into groups. So like I said, I was annoying people. So eventually I said, you know what, I'll actually just make a Facebook page and put any jobs that I find up on this Facebook page. And if anyone wants to find a job, this can be their go-to. And it just exploded. Within, I'd say, about a fortnight, there was about 2,000 family carers after liking this page. So then it even just reinforced that this is needed. That for family carers to know that, God only knows that we don't have time. You're trying to manage your time in the day. So even to sit for 2 hours at night time to try and go through job boards and trying to search for, there's many different job boards out there right now. So we don't have time to sit and go through it all. So for someone to actually do all that searching for you and find those 15, 16, 17, 18-hour jobs and put them in one place, that's what was happening. It started to grow from there even more, that rather than it be a Facebook page or a Facebook group, started to have conversations then with employers. So when would say that I would see a job that would be 24 hours, actually picking up the phone and ringing the employer to say, well, do you know what, if a family carer with the skills, the qualifications, the passion that you want for your position that you're trying to fill was to apply, and that they were successful in the interview. So we're not asking for family carers to come in a back door or anything, that they still go through the same interview process as everyone else. But if they were to score high on your interview, that maybe you could reduce the 24 hours to 18 and a half hours. Would you be open to that? And the majority of times, like, it was actually, it would floor me, the amount of people that would say, yes, no problem, we'd be open to the 18 and a half hours because it's about finding the right person. That was always the right answer. So when you get a question or an answer like that from the employer, at least then to go back to the family carers then and say, okay, it's advertised at 24 hours. But I was talking to Mary Murphy inside and she had said, yes, apply for it. And if you're successful, they'll be able to meet the 18 and a half hours. But it just opened the door for family carers to be able to even have the opportunity to go for the job. So like I said, it started as the Facebook page and then we kind of developed into having those conversations. And now we're just having more and more conversations because what we're finding is just employers don't know. They didn't know about 18 and a half hours. They're very familiar with 19 and a half would be the CE scheme and job seekers allowance and things like that in Ireland. So they're very familiar with that because to take someone on through the CE scheme, the employer gets funded from the government to pay the wage of that person. It's nearly like a circle that they're going around in. But for the sake of that 1 hour, employers didn't know that there's a limit on family carers for 18 and a half. And it was brilliant that for some employers that would maybe say, no, that we can't do the 18 and a half hours, but we'll know for future. And again, that was a whole piece of education to say, okay, well, they can't do it now, but at least now that they know that for the sake of maybe 2 or 3 hours in the difference, because for some job roles, they would be funded and then the funding would have to be signed off based on 21 hours or whatever it may be. So at least they'd know then that when they were, having to get that position funded again in the future, that they could maybe put in from 18 to 21 hours and know that they'd be covered in it, whatever it may be. But again, it was just that huge education piece for employers, and it still is. There's a lot of work still to do to tell employers about these thousands and thousands of family carers that are skilled, qualified people that they could be dipping into as a workforce that they're actually not availing of right now because of those hours.
So that's brilliant, and it kind of touches to some of the previous speakers on Career Conversations, employers, and particularly Mary Connaughton from CIPD, who spoke about raising awareness, and that's a common theme that's coming up amongst our guests, that is to raise awareness with employers and organisations of what the challenges are and the issues that family carers face. It's not just that they need to be maybe start later or go home earlier or need that time off, that there are other issues. And as you say, there's nearly just under 90,000 that receive a carers allowance.
Yeah.
So the potential is there for employers. So I'm just interested, you're talking about an awful lot of touching base with employers, and there seems to be a lot of work involved. What sort of time commitment have you to your enterprise, and is it just yourself, or how is that working?
It's myself and 4 volunteers. So very much so. The volunteers are even more the administrative, because there's a lot in trying to manage that jobs board, which is a good thing, because the more jobs that we see going up on the jobs board, that's just a great reflection. But the other thing then is trying to get jobs based in the right areas. So I would say over kind of northern west of Ireland, it's very hard. We're finding it very hard to get jobs of age, but then there's thousands of family carers in those localities. So you're trying to spread out. I suppose geographically, the numbers are reflecting, we'll say, Dublin and Cork, things like that. The jobs are there, because that's the population. But it's trying to get like family carers coming to me from Cavan and Leitrim and not having jobs in their area, so it's so there's a lot of work involved in doing that, but it's the work, and that's where jobs for family carers only needs to grow. Do you know what I mean? So it can't be, I need 5 of me to be able to deliver what I want to be able to deliver across Ireland, and that's something I'm going to be determined on doing. Like, this is something that Ireland needs, not just family carers, but even Ireland. You mentioned about CIPD there, Margaret, that they actually released a report. Was it last month on the skills shortage in Ireland, and like across all counties, across all industries, it's been talked about. And again, that's where, as you mentioned, under 90,000 people aren't being used for the skills that they have. So there's a lot of work to be done. But like I said, it's needed in Ireland. My very firm belief is that. The same way as I had mentioned about that the government support the 19.5 hours with CE scheme, my belief is that if the government have put this 18.5 hour stipulation in place for family carers, they do have some sort of an obligation to help family carers find those 18.5 hour jobs. That's a whole other debate. That's a whole other conversation to have. But and that's another piece of work.
Yeah, and probably it leads on to kind of the next question. I know you've spoken a bit about the 18.5 hours and how that impacts on family carers or people that are trying to combine a paid employment with a caring role. So are there any other challenges? I'm thinking particularly about the carers allowance and the income disregards around that. And I know here in Family Carers Ireland, in pre-budget submission that they've done recently, they're looking at the income disregards, they're looking at the rates of the carers allowance and the hours worked and those sort of issues. Have you any views or thoughts on the wider issue about the carers allowance?
Yeah, very well. God, we could be here for about 3 days talking about this. Very much so. We'll say jobs for family carers is, like I said, very focused on the 18.5 hours or less jobs. But family carers, even if they're not on carers allowance, as I would always say even about myself, is that even if, what way would I put it, that because of the treatment that Niall is my son, but because of the treatment that he needs, the care that he needs, I actually still can't commit to a full-time job. So regardless whether someone's on carers allowance or 18.5 hours or whatever it is, that full-time job commitment isn't possible for a lot of family carers. So regardless, carers allowance, the whole means test plan carers allowance again is a shambles. Do you know what I mean? It's shocking. Do you know, for the sake of a family could be over by €8 and then to get completely stricken off, knowing that they're at home having to, have the house amended, having to buy sanitary products for their child or for their parents or whatever it may be. It's just ridiculous. Like I said, don't get me started. but it's just there's a whole other piece that needs to be worked on around that. But again, it's part of the government, needing to pull the socks up around family carers as a whole. Like even the number that goes around about the 20 billion that they save the HSE. Like if family carers in Ireland were to step back and not do what they do every day, and we'll say whether it's dad who has Alzheimer's or maybe a child who's profoundly disabled, and if they were all to end up in care, Ireland would collapse. It really but it doesn't seem to be recognised in that. So even if it be that it start to be recognised just from the workforce as step one, because I always say is that the having a job is not just about payslip. It is the social element, the psychological element, the emotional piece, I know people give out about having a job sometimes, but when you don't have it, even if it's just that chat to say what did you get up to at the weekend, when everyone from work is organised, maybe going out for a meal, that you're invited to the meal, it's all those little things. So it's yes, the pay slip, because like I said, carers allowance doesn't make you a millionaire by any means. So the pay slip does help, but there's so much more for a family carer. So even if the government was to help when it comes to the workforce side of things, it would be step one to a certain extent. You know, it's just one piece of a massive jigsaw. It really and truly is.
And as you say, it's not just in the interest of family carers, it's the interest of employers as well, because they need those skills and the staff attention.
Very much.
And we might talk a little bit about COVID a little bit later as well, but it's interesting that you make that, you know, the point about that social aspect of work. And I think we've all, even people that aren't carers or you know, that have had to give up employment, that we've all realised the significance of it having, you know, that interaction with people in work and stuff like that. I think kind of following on from that is, I know you kind of touched on how you know, Jobs for Family Carers came about and how it's developed, and you know, it sounds like it's a very busy enterprise with yourself and your 4 volunteers. So I was going to kind of maybe touch on how it's grown or developed since then. But I know you mentioned to me before we started recording here that you rebranded recently, so maybe you might give us a little bit of a rundown on that.
You're very good. No,
your new name.
Yes. And Jobs for Family Carers falls off my tongue because it's the last 3 years saying Jobs for Family Carers, so that's what it's known as. But we've rebranded only in the last, I'd say, about 3 weeks. Is to Count on Us Recruitment, and people will start to see that transition. The reason the name was needed, and again, like I said, it was a learning for me, is that all I would have known for a long time is the family care world, because like I said, I'm surrounded by consultants, doctors, medication. I'm the family care, and that's what I would have lived and breathed. So that's all when Jobs for Family Carers was set up, it was from that perspective. It was the family care into the workforce. But as time has gone on, I've realised the impact that Jobs for Family Carers can have to the employer. As in, like I said, talking about the skill shortage in Ireland at the moment, every newspaper you pick up now, you're talking about recruitment crisis. And to know that the family carers could be one element of a solution when it comes to the recruitment crisis in Ireland. But Count on Us Recruitment then came from that audience, as in when an employer looks to us to say, okay, well, actually, I need to find an accountant. I want someone to do my books maybe 3 mornings a week. I want maybe someone to work 2 days on my books, whatever it may be. When they looked at Jobs for Family Carers, in an employer's head, they would say, well, I'm not hiring a caring role. It's an accountant I want. So they didn't see it as a place to come to find skilled people. They would look on it, we'll say, for example, like Bluebird Care or Comfort Keepers, that kind of a road. That's what they thought the business was. So that's why I knew, okay, I said the rebrand is needed now, because employers are the ones that we want to get to, so that family carers can get back into the workforce. So that employers and businesses and corporates across the country see Count on Us Recruitment as the place to come to for a part-time workforce and skilled people. As I said, mentioned accountants, teachers who've had to leave their roles, marketing executives. There's so many people that I've spoken to that have been in the corporate world, managed projects, huge projects, and because, like I said, life has thrown sickness or illness or aging our way, we've had to step back from all this, but have all these skills and all these experiences to give an employer. But then it's for employers then as well we're trying to shake that stereotype, maybe, is that for people who are doing the hiring, when they hear a family carer, to think that caring isn't all they're able to do. And there's a bit of a stereotype there from people then as well, is that when they hear of a family carer applying for a job, there's nearly a prejudgment that has been made already on the hiring part. And we're trying to shift that as well. I would, because I've been asked by employers before, and which is a very valid question, is they would ask, well, what if, this person gets a phone call at 2:00 in the day and they have to go home because the person is sick at home? My answer would be, well, what is your policy? What's your process for any staff member that would happen to? That's, you don't have to be a family
It
member.
can happen to anybody.
Absolutely. And that's my thing. It does. There's CEOs of companies who get to call at 2:00 in the day that maybe their child is after getting sick in the creche, and they have to go out and collect them. But it's because they're a family carer, that question has been assigned to them. So that would be always my thing was, well, what is your process for any of your staff members that would happen for? Do they work back their time and maybe over the course of the week, or what is your process? The same process would apply to a family carer. But again, that question has been associated with a family carer, and it's trying to shake that stereotype that unfortunately is out there. But Count on Us Recruitment, like I said, is working on getting those things done. Like I said, there's still a lot of work to do, but going to be done.
Yeah, well, you'll have to keep us posted on the rebranding, because it'll probably, as you can imagine, it'll be a couple of weeks after recording this that we'll actually release it. So we can certainly put whatever links to your new branding and stuff with that. So maybe, I know you've spoken about that you reaching out to employers and employers contacting you and family carers who are looking to return to employment or start in employment. So how do people contact you? That, I know we've talked about the rebranding, so maybe it's a bit of a viewpoint at this stage. But how are people up to this stage contacting you or getting involved with the enterprise?
The joys of the online world, but a lot of people, and I suppose a lot of family carers from family care side, are on the likes of social media. So it would be Facebook and things like that. And then employers are getting in contact by, again, through the website or by phone calls. Count on Us Recruitment, I say Jobs for Family Care / Count on Us Recruitment is, we would take part now in a lot of webinars that are happening with an audience of recruiters or HR managers or companies as a solution for skill shortages, a solution for the recruitment crisis. So we've been asked to speak at some events and things like that. So it's raising awareness among that audience to say, well, look, this is a place you can come to that and especially, I know that you said that you're going to touch on COVID in a few minutes, but especially after COVID, there's a lot of companies out there that don't have the budget they used to. So they've maybe had to let go full-time staff. They maybe are trying to grow but don't have the budget right now to take on full-time staff, and looking at, well, where can I go for 15 hours? Where can I go to advertise? So it's raising awareness of that. So there's a lot of recruiters coming through other collaborations. So like I said, HR managers, recruitment company or recruiters, corporates themselves. It's through those collaborations, those audiences, we're getting to there. And then family carers, believe it or not, family carers, I won't say believe it or not, but I know you will believe this, are phenomenal at supporting each other. So even at, I would get a job that I wouldn't have seen. It could be a family carer in Waterford that would see a job in Waterford, send it to me and say, I can't apply for this. It's not something that I'd be interested in, but another family carer might like this. And it just blows me away every time. It really does, as to that family carers would think of other family carers. And that just, again, going back to the corporate world, so many, there's so many papers and research out there now about soft skills, that these soft skills that can't be taught, that family carers have naturally, and to have that skill set be brought onto a team of people, that these soft skills of, like I know the cliche of the word resilience with family care, but there's so many other soft skills of these, using your initiative to think of, well, this isn't something that I would use, but someone else might use this, and even taking the time to share that information. But that's, again, a personality trait and a skill of family care that even family carers don't realise. Do you know that?
Yes.
And that's a huge piece as well from a family carer's perspective, is all these skills that they have. I even talk about the organisational skills that are needed to file away letters from consultants, to stay on top of appointments, to follow up on appointments to make sure they're still going ahead because they could cancel and let no one tell you. There's all these, having to manage your diary, having to manage your budget. There's so many skills that a family carer takes for granted because, but sure, I'm doing it at home anyway. But I often say, well, apply that to the business world. Do you know, apply those management, even the job. Some people, that your listeners are going to kill me for saying this, but even when it comes to sometimes having to deal with family at home, a family carer has to make a decision maybe for the person that they're caring for, and the family doesn't agree with that decision, and there's a whole debate about it. So even conflict resolution or communication skills that you need to have as a family carer to make sure that not just the person you're caring for, not just your own family, but the wider branch of the family, everyone is kept happy. And that, imagine that being applied to like team leading skills in a company. Do you know what I mean? But again, for family carers to realise they have those skills, but for employers to realise that family carers have those skills as well, there's a huge piece.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting. I don't know if you've listened to the episode with Lizzie Falconer, the family carer who spoke with Care About Conversations in a previous episode, but she's combining working and a caring role at home, and she's quite a strenuous routine that she has to do with her son. But that's one of the things she said, like the skill set that family carers bring to employers and organizations. So the way she said it was, you get things done, like you're because things have to be done. There's no, especially I suppose during COVID, like there was no one to turn to, so it was down to you to get these things done. So they're great skills that any organization would be happy to have. And I suppose we've touched on COVID there a couple of times in the last while, so maybe we'll have a little chat about it now, maybe, because it had a big impact on society, on all society, but especially and people that have a caring role. So in terms of maybe in your own role, plus how COVID may have impacted on Counting Us recruitment, I'm trying to remember to say it now. I think we're both kind of tripping over a little bit. But how did COVID impact yourself and the enterprise?
Yeah. If Anthony, and I know, again, is it nearly a sin to say that there's positives out of COVID? I know that's terrible because it
definitely not. Yeah. Definitely not. It has been said by quite a few.
Yeah, and again, there's a few, like there's the two sides of the coin, because there will always be family carers who, COVID or not, have been housebound. That they have, like I said, maybe someone who's profoundly disabled at home, and that they're at home 24 hours. So if Anthony, the one introduction of COVID, and I'm sure a lot of your guests have mentioned it, is the change in the workforce when it has come to working from home. That again, even though for those family carers that they can't leave the home, no, like I said, they're not strapped in at home or anything like that, but they're very much committed at home. It just gives them that outlet to be able to say, well, okay, if it is someone to maybe do administration, there's many call centres now that are actually starting to set up. Shopify is one of the companies that I'm talking to at the moment, again, because they're all their call centre staff are home-based. And again, it's talking to not just them, but other corporates around the country to say that that start looking at part-time, if you can't fill a full-time option, to have 2 18.5-hour contracts to fill a part-time role. So just having those conversations with them. But like I said, the call centre staff, administrative staff, like I said, people who do, accountancy, whatever it may be, are starting to get more and more remotely based. So to be able to have that as an option now to family carer, or even they talk about now the hybrid, is that if you know that there's going to be, if there is a day where you wake up and maybe dad isn't great today and today's the day you need to stay at home, that you know that you can still work from home and then go into work maybe in 2 or 3 days time or whatever it may be. So it has changed the workforce hugely, COVID. And I do often say is that sometimes COVID has forced Ireland to do this. Like, people have been calling for this for years and years and years, and companies said, no, we can't do it, it's not possible. And then all of a sudden, within 48 hours, the whole country was working from home. So it was possible when it needed to be possible. But at the same time then is that it has opened, people's eyes to needing that social piece. So there's that, trying to get that balance of, yes, okay, work from home, but still the benefit of getting out of the house again, like I said, because as I mentioned, is that, having the job isn't just about the money, that it is that psychological and social piece to it as well. And a lot of people missed out on that. And again, that's back to, I suppose, the family carer then choosing themselves when they're applying for a job. Yes, this is going to suit me, or no, it's not going to suit me. So a working from home job might drive someone completely crazy and not able for that. And then someone else would say, oh, that's exactly what I would need right now. So it's up to that. But they do say in the recruitment industry right now is that the person applying for the job has more clout now than actually the person that's doing the hiring, because there is that ask now. There is the ask of, well, can this be hybrid? Can that be remote? And what way can we flexibly work about that? And there is that flexibility policy that's going to be signed off then as well. I don't know, I can't remember exactly when the delivery date on that is, but again, that the companies have to have these policies in place that someone can now ask, can I work hybrid? Can I work from home? So it definitely has had its positives after such a long run of the emotional and social elimination that COVID gave to us all. Do you know what I mean? Because it can't be ignored. Like, you know, family carers were completely and utterly just forgotten about through COVID. I've been very biased because, like I said, it's the world I live in myself, you know, and even every single appointment that got cancelled for a lot of people are still even trying to get them rescheduled. So the waiting lists in the HSE are long enough without now the backlog from COVID as well. So family carers are stressed enough as it is, you know, but so it has had definitely its positives and its negatives, you know.
Yeah, no, that's definitely something that's come across in the overall Care World project and the research that's involved in that it did have something like had quite a few negatives, as you have mentioned, but there were positives around to have that choice about work, and you say it has been proven that it can work, you know, but you just have to keep in mind that balance as well. Like, and I suppose all family carers have to have that kind of social interaction as well. That's very important. So we're getting near the end of the conversation here. I just have one more question, and it's kind of I think sometimes it's described as the magic wand question. That if you had three things, or three key things that employers could do to support family carers, what would they be, or what would you choose?
If they could support family care, would be first of all for them to get rid of that stigma, get rid of their thoughts on what they think a family carer is, and what they think every employer across Ireland now is probably going to kill me for referring to them as they.
No, but I mean, just probably to kind of again, it's a very common theme in the podcast. It's a raising awareness. It's the kind of, you know, raise awareness of employers and line managers and people that are actually, you know, that would be, I suppose, dealing with employees that would have these issues that you spoke about, that all employees have issues.
Yes.
And that they have that awareness of what family carers issues may be, and I think maybe it's slightly different on that, how to address them or to help support the family carers.
Yeah.
So I think the employees will know what you're saying.
Yeah, no, absolutely. From an employer's point of view as well, maybe one of the things I would be proposing is, like, legally, I suppose, that any employee, family care or not, about your carers leave. And again, going back to when I was working full time, is that a lot of companies, for their own resourcing and for their own planning, carers leave is given in bulk. You know, that you get to take maybe the 3 weeks together, or take time together, take maybe 3 months, whatever it may be. But that's for the company's benefit, as in that they can work out their workforce then if they know that Fiona is going to be gone for 3 weeks or whatever it may be. And I completely get that, completely and understand it. But for family carers, like, if they could use that carers leave when they need it. So if they know there's going to be 3 days that someone's in hospital for 3 days, so rather than being forced to take 3 weeks worth of leave, that they could use that. So that could be something that I would be proposing, because I've just crossed that bridge myself. Is so no, again, like I said, it's magic wand stuff, because, like I said, a lot of corporates plan their year, and they have a business at the end of the day, and that's completely and utterly understandable. So how can you plan when something is going to be so random about leave? So it is a magic wand thing. From government point of view, I would, again, magic wand is that if there's people across Ireland being supported, like I said, for the 19.5 hours, for the sake of 1 hour, for employers to be supported by government. For now, my gut instinct is that when through 19.5 hours, is that when the government fund an employer to hire someone on the 19.5 hours or through the CE scheme, through the CE scheme as well, the person themselves can qualify for courses and things like that. So my gut instinct is that for the sake of that 1 hour difference, possibly if they were to allow that 1 extra hour, now we've 90,000 more people looking for courses, and now we have to fund 90,000 more people so it's a budgetary reason. But I would love to see employers backed by the government to support family carers. So whatever way that triangle would be, even if it wasn't through the CE scheme, a similar, but some sort of magic wand that employers would be backed. As I mentioned earlier on, that it's the government that have put the stipulation in about the 18.5 hours. So I believe that they have some obligation to get to connect up that triangle. So the employment to the government to the family care. But as I said, magic wand job.
No, very good, very, very interesting, and thanks for that. Fiona, I have no other questions to ask you. I don't know, is there anything else you'd like to add, anything that I haven't covered that you...
Not that I can think of. We've covered it all. But like I said, there's just so much more work to be done. There really and truly is. Not just with the employers, but like I said, in family carers as well, for their own journey and there, because it's not all as simple as, you know, just writing your CV, applying for your job. There's an awful lot of self-belief and confidence building that a lot of family carers, you know, that's part of their journey as well. One of the things that was a learning for me was family carers saying to me, I haven't worked for the last 15 years. Who's going to hire me? So that's a whole piece of a journey for a family carer that we'd be supporting them on as well. So it's a long journey. So it's a journey coming from one end with family care and the other end coming from the employers. And like I said, what we do as well with Count on Us Recruitment is working with charities. So charities that would be supporting family carers, because every charity will say has their own cohort of family carers, depending on maybe the diagnosis of the person that they're caring for, or whatever it may be. But those charities want to help their family carers return to work to gain those psychological and social benefits from it. So again, collaborating with charities to help their family carers. And again, I keep talking about triangles, but it's that employer, charity, family care triangle then as well, you know, so to help charities, you know, deliver and support their family carers at the same time, because we're all, I think, on the same hymn sheet. We all want the same changes. We all want and we want to help, as I keep saying, I want family carers to bounce back after COVID, but I want Ireland to bounce back after COVID as well. I want employers to bounce back after COVID, so that we're all in this together.
Definitely, that's a wish we all share. And it's very true. We really need to get, you know, stakeholders talking to each other and kind of raising awareness amongst the different organisations and groups. And you're certainly a very strong voice in that at that area, I have to say, Fiona. So thank you very much. I think you've come a long way from your web or your Facebook page with your jobs and linking jobs to areas and stuff. And I wish you all the best with your rebranding and Count on Us Recruitment. We'll certainly plug that when we release the podcast. We'll have all the links for people to have a look at and have a look at the new branding. So thanks again. Delighted that you joined us, Fiona, and wish you all the best.
Brilliant. Thank you very, very much.
We've reached the end of our Carewell conversation for this episode. I'd like to thank you for listening. If you'd like to hear more from us, please subscribe to Carewell Conversations on your podcast platform of choice, or alternatively, you will find us at carewellproject.com or across our various social media channels, which are linked in our podcast feed. We'd also like to hear from you, our listeners. Please feel free to leave any comments, feedback, or suggestions you may have on any of our social media feeds, or you can contact us directly at carewell@ucd.ie. Thank you for listening, and we look forward to you joining us on future Carewell Conversations.